Hello there, I'm Garrett, the Euro Nerd, and this is my friend Scott.
Hi, Gary's going to help me understand imperialism and stuff like that. I'm glad you're joining us. I'm so excited that I decided to wear my best shirt today.
That's right, Scott. We're going to compare nationalism with imperialism.
Whoa, wait, I thought imperialism was the same thing as nationalism.
Well, no. Nationalism can be a proponent of imperialism, but it can also create a resistance against it.
Okay, I'm confused.
You see, imperialism is essentially the colonization and expansion of control in one country or territory by another country, usually more powerful.
Why would someone want to invade like that?
There are a few reasons. Motives can be cultural, political, military-related, or most often, in this case, capitalistic. Each motive defines a different type of imperialism.
So how does nationalism support that?
I think this would be a good time to take our first step back into time. Let's take a peek at the Franco-Prussian War. This was a war that followed the attempted revolutions of 1848. In order to tie up the loose ends of the German powers, there was a push for the unification of the North German Confederation and the southern independent German states. It created tensions throughout the rest of Europe, and long story short, it was decided that Prussia and Germany would have to go to war with France in order to succeed with unification.
So what does this have to do with nationalism?
Otto von Bismarck, a Prussian chancellor, dominated Germany using realpolitik policies. Realpolitik is a government system and form of diplomacy that relies on pragmatic decisions rather than morals and ideologies. With that said, Bismarck made the strategically practical decision to paint a target on France in 1870 by forging a note from the French ambassador that implied that the ambassador had insulted the Prussian king. He used this as an excuse to rally the Germans and Prussians against the French. Nationalism is the sense that your country is better than others, and it is characteristically marked by the great unity of the people. By creating a common enemy, Bismarck propagated nationalism in Germany and Prussia.
Was this the only spark of nationalism due to the revolutions of 1848?
No, actually. Italy had a similar experience. Camillo de Cavour, the president of the Council of Ministers in 1852, painted Austrians as an enemy, and led the Italians to drive them out of the peninsula. Not only that, he achieved it without the help of Britain and France that he was relying on. This was known as the Crimean War, and it led to Austria being extremely isolated from Italy. At the front of the army during this war was Giuseppe Garibaldi, a great Italian war hero leading a band of red-shirted volunteers.
Okay, so how was Europe involved with the imperialist action?
That's our next destination. We're booking it to Africa.
Gosh, it's hot. Why here?
Well, there are resources here, and by the late 19th century, Europeans had means to colonize and move into the interior of the continent, which they couldn't do before.
Like what?
First and foremost, they had technological superiority with new weapons such as the Maxim machine gun.
Oh, I want gun.
Anyway, the second factor was that by now the Europeans had perfected the drug quinine, which protected them from malaria. The third was the ability of European countries to travel deep into the continent with the steam engine, and finally, the fact that Africa was extremely diverse in cultures and beliefs made them vulnerable to separation and disorganization.
So nationalism in African countries wasn't so dominant.
Now you're getting it.
But still, what was so special about African resources?
Large deposits of tin and copper were discovered in the Congo along with gold and even diamonds in South Africa.
Diamonds! Gimme, gimme!
Hold on, buddy. That's exactly what the European countries said. So they all met at the Berlin Conference from 1884 to 1885 in order to establish ground rules about how to take claim to land on the continent. Every country wishing to lay claim had to notify the other European countries about their claim of land, and they also had to show that they could control it.
I can do that.
Yeah, right. You don't even have self-control, Scott.
What do you mean?
Never mind.
So what did the people of South Africa do?
Well, the inhabitants of South Africa at the time were the Boers, who were Dutch farmers that had settled in the region. When adventurers began to flood in, they tried to keep them out as much as possible. Eventually, they blamed the mess of tourists and explorers on the British and went to war with the British. This dispute was known as the Boer Wars, which was a set of two wars fought during 1880 to 1881 and 1899 to 1902. In the end, the Brits were victorious and they took control of the area that soon became the Union of South Africa.
Those British sound like a bunch of troublemakers.
I can't disagree with you on that one. They also had an imperial hand in India. Colonialism in that part of the world stemmed from great power and expansion of Britain's East India Company. Negative effects of Britain in India was that the British held a lot of economic and political power in the area. They imposed economic restrictions on Indian society that kept India from operating in an economically independent manner. However, despite the negatives, Britain also constructed the world's third largest railroad in India, which enabled them to form a modern economy and establish more unity between connected regions.
I don't care what good they did. I'm just glad America wasn't that cold-hearted.
Oh, my friend, you have much to learn.
What do you mean?
Most people would say that the ousting of the indigenous Native Americans in North America was an act of U.S. imperialism.
What?
Yep. The same thing goes for the colonization of Hawaii and Latin America, and also the rest of Southeast Asia.
That doesn't count. We're America.
Scott, remember, imperialism is simply the colonization of one territory by a group from another territory.
Whatever. I get it.
Oh well. Anyway, do you feel more comfortable with imperialism and nationalism now?
I think I do. I at least know that nationalism plays a major role in the unification of people, and so it can support the goals of expansionism and imperialism.
Sounds like you have it, my friend. Good luck on the test.
You too. But I'm gonna go get some sleep. This learning stuff isn't something I'm used to. It's tiring.
Alright, man. Have fun.